So I've been using the sling and trying to get most of the larger weeds up, or down, I should say. Like pretty much all day, a little bit yesterday. And you can kind of see how high they are there. You know, there's probably some, these are average maybe 3.5 foot, but there's probably some that go 7 foot in different areas. Mostly Biden's alba, a few goldenrods, a few odds and ends. So hopefully I can, when I'm done, get a rake and pull all this green material up and put them on top of beds or potentially new beds or future beds as well. So this stuff really breaks down, probably including that bed we were just looking at, that mystery bed. Obviously do not want to take out all the bees and pollinator food and stuff like that. So we're going to just do our trails where we walk and where we need to get around and work, and leave hopefully at least a third of these, if not half, for the pollinators. I'm thinking about a third, but it's hard to tell how much time I'm going to have. Am I going to be able to clear everything out that I want and use a lot of this as chop and drop, or to create soil and nutrients for everything? So this is the area for that. We were thinking of making a raised bed too. Look at all the growth here. And there's a spider lily over there. Check that out. But we decided kind of not to do the age wood chip raised alternative bed and just kind of raise it to make a border. But now we are going to put some weeds and stuff in there. Maybe at least make a layer of soil or mulch. A couple of pecan trees here and over there, and all those cherry laurels that I've cut down, and they just keep coming back up. I wonder if we could graft them, despite being on the power line there. I wonder if either we could graft or somebody else can graft a couple good ones, and just let the power company deal with cutting the limbs up there when they got that big. But we got a loquat here as well. I don't know. I'm thinking about putting figs here instead of pineapple guavas, which was the original intention, to put like 3 or 5 or 7 pineapple guavas there. And maybe a couple other things. I cannot stand cherry laurels. Cherry laurels are invasive to me, even though they're not considered invasive. They just have a root system, and a lot of people don't agree with this because they haven't experienced it. But they have a root system here in our swampy, acidic, bordering on swamp muck. They just spread root suckers everywhere. You cut it down, and it just, a 10, 20 foot row of these guys just come up. If you don't dig up the roots with like a tractor or something, then they're just, you can't really get rid of them. It is another day, and I've got some brush off of the some hair off the hairbrush, and I pull it off, a couple times a week. And just like the dryer lint, we'll throw this in a compost pile or whatever, and just let it compost down. You might not like it being shown on camera, but she's got some panties, 100% cotton panties, that the little strap band or whatever on the side broke. Hanes cheap underwear. And we'll compost this either in a compost pile or maybe in our magic soil. We haven't dug up that magic soil again, where we put a bunch of 100% cotton clothes in there to see if they have broken down or been broken down by the microbes and insects and earthworms and stuff like that. So it'll be interesting to soon do that. But we do have a hurricane that's going to hit between a Category 3 and a Category 4 tomorrow, somewhere between 7 and 8 p.m. supposedly. Hopefully we're out of the majority of that destructive path, but you never know. The other day I was out just trying to clear up some weeds and brush around one of the pawpaw grafted trees, I believe, and they broke my Pennsylvania golden like a foot plus section off the top. Not intending to, it just snapped. It's still above the graft where it broke, so hopefully it'll bush out later. But I did try to see if I could graft, you know, a couple little twigs here and there to see if they do another one. As you can see, the grafting tape there. And you know, do you have to have dormant wood to graft? Do you have to graft dormant wood to spring growth wood? I think it's probably better. But hey, this is, you know, these are just root suckers and stuff that doesn't matter if they take or not, but it's interesting to see. We'll see if this actually produces any kind of successful graft. There are people that graft mulberries potentially all year long. And then, you know, loquats and avocados, but those I think are more evergreen. So, have there been any female flowers on these squash, zucchini, whatever these guys are? I don't see any yet, but let's go look and see if we can see any signs of a female flower forming anywhere. See these future flowers? There would be like a bulb on the bottom there if they were going to be females. These are all males. I see one right there. There's a female, potentially like all the ones up there on the tower are males or going to be males, but it's hard to see. It's a very strange one, like a freak. That could be a female, but it looks so like off-colored, like it's going to fall off and die or something. I don't know. Let's check that out again. Another one. And it looks like it's kind of yellowed, like it's not very healthy. What's the plan, you know, on the last few months of season 2 of these online garden adventures? You know, even though we've been doing this for a long time, probably close to 30 years, maybe longer if you count like my first garden adventure, you know, as a kid, sticking those white mulberry cuttings in the ground and rooting 2 of them, which are still alive today. I would say, number 1, because we had such a lack of progress in season 2 of the raised aged wood chip alternative beds, try to create some more post-mycorrhizal beds, maybe try to finish up some of the raised beds we started, and maybe try to build some new beds, even if they don't get planted out in season 2. I just feel like we need to make up for some of the lack of what we got done because of that horrible drought, then the flooding, then mosquitoes. So as cooler weather comes on, hopefully a lot of the mosquito population will be low. You know, we got hurricanes coming, so maybe that's not even going to happen. I guess the other big thing is to try to propagate stuff, or to like get like loquat seedlings and different things like that. I'm thinking beauty berries, propagate some to give away for the community and surrounding communities. And like I said, we got loquat seedlings everywhere, so yeah, it costs money to get dirt, and it's working time. We need buckets and all. We probably have a variety of bigger buckets, but yep, giving away or trading some loquats, most likely giving most of them away. And you know, getting Suriname cherry seedlings. We're going to grab some for ourselves, of course, but there are a lot of people that want them, you know, whether or not they're buying them or trading them, or they just want them and I'm going to give them away to them. There's definitely somebody that wants some that I kind of told them they got a resiny flavor. I think I gave them some before, but you know, in my experience in this specific climate, you get a limited amount of fruit on one bush because it can have some major issues with, and you know, they bloom in the winter, and they're a subtropical species. You may have a couple, 2, 3, 5 good years, then a freeze or something will wipe them out, and then they'll come back. Maybe from the roots are low and they're set back. They won't flower for a couple years or more. Hopefully ours flowers again this year and produces some fruit. But we do have seedlings here, there, and everywhere, all around the tree, probably 10, 12 foot from the tree, or bush. I guess you could call it a little bush since it freezes back quite a bit. And if anybody wants Mexican Tithonia, you know, we can always give cuttings or whatever away, start a few rooted ones and give them away as well. Cassava, you know, somewhere between the end of season 2 and the beginning of season 3, you know, depending on when a frost or freeze is predicted, you know, we'll be chopping a lot of the tops off of those guys. And each top can be 2 or 3 plants, you know, or 1, you know, depending on the size. Kind of is a lady that gives away a massive amount of cassava sticks each year anyway, you know, in our kind of circle, our little surrounding area here. And that's where I got mine from. You know, I did originally buy some online or something, and they lasted a year or 2, and then they died or freeze or something. But now I got them planted here and there and everywhere, and I can continue to plant more, but I'll have extras for whoever wants some too. You know, they may not get 10 sticks, they may get 1 or 2, but that's okay. Maybe next year I'll have 50. And we have passion flowers all over the place, and these very, very rarely produce anything edible. They do occasionally produce 5, 7, 10 fruit each year, but there's so little pollination that there's only a little bit of edible stuff in them. If you don't mow your yard enough, they will spread even on the ground. They're not just going up trellises and trees like over there. This is one that's hybridized on our property, and it produced this kind of white purple one versus those purple ones versus those Lady Margarets. I think it's probably these hybridized with the Lady Margarets, and you know, they don't get pollinated easily, but occasionally they do get some level of pollination. And then, you know, a fruit or something, you don't get it, or it drops on the ground, compost down, the seeds, you know, a couple seeds may make it, and here we go. These guys may look similar to some other commercial cultivars, but I promise you I did not ever get these. I only got those purple or blue ones, the Lady Margarets, the Maypops. And I just recently, last year, introduced purple possum. And those are, you know, 500-700 foot away. And these have been flowering here for a few years. So they hybridized and they created their own type. That's Mayhaw that we planted. The grafted one's still looking good here. I'm sure it's going to enjoy that flooding that we potentially get from this hurricane. The reason why I said, you know, it was most likely that purple or blue one with their Lady Margarets here is that the Maypops I planted didn't do good here. So they produced little or no flowers or anything. They died along this, you know, maybe it's too rooty, too shady or something. My Maypops that are successful are, you know, with those purple possum passion flowers. So these are really the only ones in close proximity, the Lady Margarets, and they do produce, usually there's a flower about 25 foot up there, probably, or 20 foot, can't see it probably, but they produce some level of fruit every year. I find it on the ground or I see it on the vines, but this year, for whatever reason, they're not as vigorous. They're usually covering this whole area here, up this pine tree and stuff. There's Lady Margarets, and let's see if I can zoom in to where these, probably about 30 foot in the air, where there's like brown vine structures, probably going out to that limb there. That's about probably 25, 30 foot in the air that they have sometimes got up that high, and they swept over here probably another 20 or 30 foot this way on some years. It looks like most of the vines, the original vines, probably fell or were pulled down. The weather over the last couple of years just hasn't been right for them. But this is the worst year so far as blooms. I've only seen a few blooms on the Lady Margaret this year, and definitely not a lot of that growth, like 30 by 30, 30 tall, 30 wide, that we usually get. Today is September 26th, and we got a hurricane coming, probably to category 3, possibly 4, they say. Helene, and looks pretty much like any other day. We've been getting a lot of drizzly rain. We did get like a hard rain about 30 minutes ago, kind of sort of flooded the yard, so hopefully that's not a sign of things to come, because we really don't need a whole lot of flooding here. We're supposed to get somewhere around 70 mile per hour winds, so it's going to hit between 7 and 9 p.m. on Florida, but that may not be where we get hit the hardest. I don't know, it could be midnight or whatever. I don't know if you guys can see it, but right there, I'm zoomed in, is a kefir pear bloom. So they're blooming again. They got like 3 or 4 pears hanging off the tree somewhere, but they're not really that good for, I guess, anything but canning. So we got the plumcot and the pear blooming again. The most of the plants that was on our rails, guardrails or whatever on the wheelchair ramp, and I put them down here because they're fairly newly planted. All these figs and a few mulberries and stuff, and I didn't want them to blow away in the wind, so they may get flooded here. Hopefully they don't blow, you know, out and like lose all their soil and like get lost somewhere, and we have to search for them. But this is the best choice we could get, you know, have, I guess, in a limited amount of time. If it wasn't flooding, I would have probably put them in higher ground, but I really don't want to run my shoes here in the water. So if we weren't facing a hurricane, I would probably be planting some of those figs out today or something, or within the next few days. But hey, this is what nature gives us. There's bananas there, do okay. Maybe all this rain will get them to plump up some more, maybe start ripening up. Get some yellow stripes in them or something. Oh gosh, look at this beauty right here. What a perfect juvenile here. And these guys are probably what this guy's eating. He's got a belly full of 2 or 3 of these frogs or maybe lizards or something. Anyway, it's about 4:30. The sun is starting to go down a little bit over there, and I guess the storm, AccuWeather's predicting it to hit at 10 p.m. instead of 7 to 9. That doesn't mean it's going to get full force here because we're inland a little bit. So we're getting a little bit of those gusts now. It's not too bad, kind of like a day at the beach, a windy day. It's almost 6 o'clock p.m. that is. Actually, it's almost 6:42 p.m. Probably be between 3 and 5 hours, I guess, before we get the worst of it. I don't know if you can see how the clouds are moving, but the bottommost layers seems to be kind of circling. You know, they're, instead of going straight, them the ones up there a little bit higher seem to be going straight, like north. But like I said, these bottom ones, I don't know if we can see them. You can see them kind of move in a circle. That one right there is kind of angled. And again, you may not be able to see it on this camera. I can see it with my eyes though. Let's zoom in here. Yeah, you can see some of the movement there. It's about 8:45, and probably about 30 minutes ago the power went out. But luckily it only stayed out 10 or 15 minutes. So it's back on. Haven't really had too many of those hurricane type gusts yet. But now they're saying it could be like 11 o'clock before it hits the landfall or whatever, makes landfall. Wow, we're getting some now. Looks like part of the tree is right there on our porch. Maple tree. I am hearing all sorts of popping, like branches in the back, and popping and breaking. So we had somebody come out really early before we even knew they were here and didn't really get a picture of the tree in the daylight, but they fixed this thing, or I should say they cut the tree. It'll just be a 2x4 from there to here, and I think this is a 2x6 maybe. That'll go across here, but we got to make sure to use treated wood, obviously. And it's not that big of a deal. Now we got more plant material for more raised beds and stuff now. This main branch here, you can see it's already been eat up with like probably woodpeckers and insects. These red maples here really get diseased And I don't know why. Check out those holes there. And another big branch here that fell. Another red maple. Lucky that it did not break our blood orange here. Big, nice oak branch here. But look at there. There may be 1 or 2 trees back there. Oaks or something that fell. That's not on our property. Another little maple. A bunch of little limbs and stuff. Luckily, we did not get any flooding at all. We got some pre-rains, you know, where got a little bit of rain for a day or 2 ahead of it. Got a little bit of a light flooding. By the time it made landfall, even hours before, there was nothing. So it was very little rain. We did get some rain during the storm, but just a tiny bit. Most of the things raining down were limbs and probably some tallow seeds and stuff like that. Luckily, it seems like very few or none of the small trees and plants and stuff got lifted up or broken or anything. I see a pine limb there. Little pine tips, you know, and stuff all over the place, scattered everywhere. Small limbs, pretty small limb there. This is all chop and drop or compost or whatever, or raised beds. Just like the red maple, we can, you know, pull them, break them a little bit so that they're flat, stack them on a raised bed. A little bit of a pine limb. Looks like we got either a red maple or a big limb. Looks like a top from a red maple fall down there. And I think there was a camper that folded in half on the other property on the other side. Almost all the surrounding counties have had some sort of power outage since last night. Some of them may have came back on this morning, but a few of them still are without power in Lake City and Gainesville, Hawthorne, possibly Melrose and other places. Palm fronds under the palm trees, more red maple, oak tree. And we got small bits of cottonwood. I think we only had one medium-sized piece come down, which is surprising. Usually the cottonwood breaks like crazy. The storm was supposed to hit Tallahassee head on, but it went slightly east, like 53, 55 miles east. And on the west side of the storm, it wasn't that bad. But if you were in the path or on the east side, it was pretty bad. Like Cedar Key got a really high storm surge. And it seemed like it wiped a lot of houses and businesses out. Tampa, even way down south, got a really high storm surge and rain flooding. It quickly receded, 10 or 15 hours or so, but it was really high up to like the stop signs and stuff like that. So even though it receded pretty fast, it probably destroyed a lot of houses and businesses that are going to have to rebuild. It also didn't knock any of the persimmons off of the trees as well, so I'm kind of happy about that. I think this is about it for this video, though. I am definitely glad my plants and my raised beds and stuff are still standing and doing okay. Nothing fell over, and I'm surprised that the papayas haven't fell over. Especially because bananas and papayas and stuff, I guess, are notorious for just falling down. Even these like 12 or 14 foot Mexican tithonias are still standing straight up here. Now, where I have them growing in a more shady area, they tend to kind of fall sideways and break a lot anyway. But in this full sun, look at the trunks and all. They harden off better. They're like, almost have like a tree bark, gray, brownish bark to them and stuff, so they're not as green. They get hardened off a lot more from the sun. This morning, I think there were 3 confirmed deaths. One might have been in Georgia or something, and 1 or 2 in Florida possibly. And I'm sure that number will increase, as the day goes on and they go and find, somebody's body. There didn't seem to be like a massive amount of destruction as far as like Hurricane Andrew or anything like that. A lot of it was just flooding, trees, power lines, power outages, and I'm wrong. I hope I'm not wrong. Hopefully most people survived this guy and doing okay. And just like always, people rebuild in these disasters, you know, after these disasters, or some of them decide to just move away. Cedar Key is not a good place based on, you know, the last couple years, the hurricanes that have hit them pretty hard. But, you know, they were predicted to have 13 plus foot storm surge, and they only got like 9, which is terrible anyway. They're just not equipped for that, despite having a lot of businesses and houses on stilts and stuff. Guys, take care.